Hello and welcome back to Cambro Conversations. In today's conversation, we are talking all things CBD. To do so, we are joined by professional rugby player and co-founder of Pure Sport CBD, Grayson Hart. Grayson, thanks for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me, man. It's a pleasure to be on here. The power of social media, connecting a couple dudes for a chat, and I find flattered that you referred to me as a professional rugby player, but I'm a happily retired and no longer battering my body and brain rugby player.
Former professional rugby player then, Grayson, and yeah, absolutely the power of social media. We can use social media exactly how we want to. Too many people are just mindlessly consuming, whereas you get the opportunity to connect with other people that you think can bring a valuable conversation, then it's really, really, really worthwhile. And so I'm thankful for the power of Instagram with that. But you've mentioned there battering the body, battering the brain. The body part is probably what led you to where you are now, given that you experienced a lot of injuries as a pro rugby player. Do you want to tell the audience a little bit about what happened in that regard and how it led to you discovering CBD?
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit of the body and the brain taking a battering. I mean, the head knocks in rugby actually quite early on led me to an interest in like supplementation that could help with long-term cognitive function. So obviously, you'll know this well yourself, like day to day life of a rugby player, like just your training, whether you're a pro or you're just someone that loves playing a contact sport, you're bashing your head against things all the time and you're getting whiplash and you're knocking on the floor and knocking against people's knees with your head and all sorts. And some of these insignificant ones like really, really stack up. But then obviously there's the bigger ones where you get knocked out and all that. And I took a lot of head knocks throughout my whole life as a rugby player, and wanting to do things that help me with long term help cognitive function, and not like down the line having dementia and all these, being concerned about that, created an interest in me quite early on around how I can use supplementation, especially natural products. So I think that side of rugby opened me up to natural alternatives, and I was really interested and fascinated about what was out there, and that these things weren't that mainstream, but there was a lot of people that were seeing unbelievable results and benefits with some of these amazing mushroom products, some of these amazing nootropics and adaptogens, which are natural ingredients that are designed to help the body handle different stresses, and then CBD specifically. I actually had a knee injury that was pretty standard. I tore my meniscus, which is not like a hugely significant injury. You usually get surgery and you're maybe out like 10 to 12 weeks after the surgery and you're back. And I suffered that injury and got back to playing normally after that 3 months. And then sort of as time went by, I'd have a bit of ache and pain in my knee, but was nothing significant. And then coming over to Scotland, my ambition when I signed for Edinburgh was to try to represent Scotland. That's my grandma's from. Managed to make my international debut. And then about a month after that tour, my knee started really swelling up. So the club, Edinburgh, sent me for MRI, came back, thought it was going to be like, oh, this or that. You got to take a few weeks out, or you may need a minor little surgery to clear it out, whatever. Came back, they brought the whole medical staff, they sat me down and they're like, this knee is in horrific condition. You're going to need to retire. The specialist is saying you need a knee replacement. You're going to need a knee replacement by the time you're 40. There's bone spurs, all the cartilage is gone. Your knee is unstable. And I was just sitting there like, I never missed a game last season. There's been no new injury. I had that injury like a year ago. I just made my international debut. Like, I don't want to. No, I'm not retiring. Like, I want to keep playing. So I couldn't really believe it. And so I said, no, I want to keep playing. They sent me to another couple specialists to get their opinion, because they can't just tear your contract up. There's got to be multiple views. All the specialists agreed my knee was stuffed, but they sort of said, look, he's functioning. As long as he's able to function and he understands the risks for himself, he can keep playing. So that was a consensus. But what that did is it led me down a real reliance on painkillers. To cut a long story short, I was really heavy on painkillers, up to 6 a day at my worst point, to try train and play to the standard that I used to, with this new pain that kept coming worse and worse in my knee. I waited till an off season because in my research I heard about CBD coming from the States, UFC, NFL guys talking about the pain relief that they were feeling with being able to replace painkillers. At this point, CBD wasn't really a thing yet in the UK. So I waited till the off season, trialed it, got all different brands, all different products, ordered from the States. And I found it was the first time I was able to get off the painkillers.
Yeah.
And I was like so excited. Because one of the things I was so concerned about is, like, I noticed these painkillers really negatively affecting my health, my mental state of mind, my physical state, my gut. 6 painkillers a day for 8 months, is not sustainable. It's not healthy. So when the CBD worked, I was over the moon. Went back to my team doctor on the start of preseason, told him I was on the CBD. I'd managed to get off the painkillers. His response was, let me check it. He came back the next day, goes, you can't take it. It's not batch tested. It's not certified. So my view was like, okay, I get that. I'd been in the game, pro rugby, for a while. I knew batch testing and all that for supplements. I was like, but let's try find a way. Like, let's find out what the level of risks is, what brands are better, what WADA is saying. And the organization was just like, nah, you can't take it. So I was like upset. I was like, I'm a human. I don't want to take 6 painkillers a day. I want to take this natural alternative that's helping me. And the answer was no. So I just made it my mission to find one that was safe and do my own due diligence. Along that path, it was, I reached out to all sorts of people. And one guy came back to me, he emailed me. He was a hemp farmer, guy from a leading hemp farm in America. And he goes, oh, let's jump on a call. Because I was like, look, I'm looking for this because I'm drug testing, blah, blah, blah. He goes, okay, let's jump on a call. He goes, look, man, like, I've got this new extraction equipment in my lab that can calibrate the machinery, and we can extract the CBD to be the exact specifications. Nowhere else can do this. We can create what you need in terms of the raw material. And then I was like, wow, that's sick. So excited. Still just wanted it as a customer. And I go thinking I was going to be his best customer, before I bought like 3-4 products at a time. And then I go to him, oh yeah, like, can you make like the equivalent to make 30 bottles of CBD? And he just like laughs at me. He's like, no, man. Like, if you calibrate my machinery to create this extraction method, like, I'm talking mass quantities, like thousands, And I was like, oh shit. So I was gutted, went away. By that point, my teammate at Glasgow Warriors, and friend Adam, he had just had a hip surgery and he was on painkillers. I told him about CBD. He got on it. He was using it. And because he had just had the surgery, he wasn't being drug tested, so there was no risk for him. Found it really beneficial. So I went to him and I was like, because I had this light bulb moment. I was like, man, I found this thing, and like, we can create our own business, and he was like, yeah, I'm in. So we had to then convince our partners that this was a great idea. 2 guys that were just rugby players that were hugely passionate, believed in something that had impacted our lives, that we knew it could impact others, and that we wanted to start a business, invest all of our savings in it. So that's how it started.
Yeah, what an incredible story, Grayson. And I think one thing to pull out there is that reliance on really heavy duty painkillers and the impact it has on other areas of your life. Because yes, it probably allowed you to fulfill that function of your life, which was so important to you: play professional rugby, try and represent Scotland, play your best for Edinburgh, Glasgow. But if it's degenerating other areas of your life, it's a very, very short term exchange of value, and your return is going to be potentially down the line really degenerative. And I think a lot of young guys in our age group will have read, Jordan Peterson, and a lot of people know about his struggles getting on opioids, and he's quite a high profile case of a genuinely incredibly intelligent man who's had to use really difficult amounts of painkillers, and it's basically ruined his life. So I'm glad that you took the decision to get away from those and find something a bit more natural.
Yeah, 100%. And like, I'm I'm thankful like that I experienced that level of discomfort with that way of life, because I have seen people that haven't kind of clued on to the issue, that that's not all good to be reliant on painkillers every single day, the same way that I feel things like sleeping pills are not for a prolonged period. They should be avoided at all costs. Things like antidepressants, I feel, should be the last resort, because what happens is these cycles are created that people become reliant, and then the bigger issue is getting off. How do they get away from these things? And I mean, one of the things that I saw in my own life was my father struggled with addiction. And so when I became so reliant on these painkillers, to the point that like codeine, cocodamol, Voltaren, these things weren't helping me anymore, because I'd built up a kind of my body had become used to them,
Tolerance,
like
yeah.
tolerance, exactly. That then I was onto these opioid based painkillers, like tramadols and these types of things. And when I know, like, so don't, with all the Voltarens and diclofenac and all those things, like I noticed my gut and my mood and feeling was not good when I'd take them for a prolonged period. And like things like even like sleep quality, wasn't sleeping well, and like energy levels were just not right, because you're not meant to have all those chemicals in your body for a long period. But then when it got to the opioid based things, when I saw them affecting how my mind functioned and my decision making in daily life, and like drowsiness, or like even feelings of like feeling like a false euphoria to like a drop, which I experienced, I was like, this shit is a slippery slope to addiction. um and I think seeing experience as a child, like seeing like the traumatic experiences that of seeing what happened to my dad, I was like, fuck, there is no way I'm gonna uh, slip into that kind of life. And even aside from that, just the effects I was experiencing then and there, not being clear-minded, affecting my health and wellness in that moment and in the long term. For me, I was like, nah, there's got to be another way. That's why I was willing to not take no for an answer when it came to a pro sports organization. Because for me, one of my things my career as a pro athlete that I realized is it's no individual's fault. The people there as individuals, they got a good heart, but the system's not designed for the athlete. It's a business, and the athlete's a cog in that wheel. And that's not to say that these people in there are consciously like thinking that way. They're not consciously trying to like, uh, you know, take the athlete for granted, or just chew them up and spit them out.
The
But
framework that they're operating within, Grayson, is dictated by the balance sheet, and ultimately you were an asset on that balance sheet that was potentially that needed to play
yeah,
based on your ability on the pitch, but also they needed to make decisions that worked out for them longer term rather than you and
yeah,
your retirement.
exactly. And the painkiller things just become normalized. I remember times getting like a surgery, like shoulder surgery, and I mean, they're a lot better now because there's been issues that have arisen in the media around like painkiller addiction in sport, and really dudes taking painkillers and crashing their cars and shit like that. But so they've gotten a lot better. But I remember when I was playing, like, have a shoulder surgery, you'd get past a thing of 100 tramadols. Like 100 tramadols can cause a lot of carnage for someone's life, um, but even, you know, just on a daily basis, you got an injury, oh, here's some pain, here's some anti-inflammatories. Like, so for me, a big part of Pure Sport is like educating, raising awareness, and breaking that cycle, which is like a quick fix mentality. And that's something that like we're so passionate about as a brand. We see the products as something that's part of a lifestyle, but in order for that lifestyle to truly be impactful, it starts with a shift in like perspective. You know what I mean? So I'm thankful that I had that shift, and it led to Pure Sport. And I'm now out here trying my best to kind of promote a different way of life than the quick fix mentality.
Yeah, that speaks to me massively. I think we have a massive challenge when it comes to like reactive treatment rather than preventative. And if you can look after yourself better day to day through and use preventative medicine or supplements, it's much better than you ending up in a position where you need and require almost like emergency intervention or short-term fixes and patches, which, as we've just discussed there, they're short-term to reduce that pain in that moment. But what's the downstream effect in terms of quality of life and ability to live the way that you would want to for that brief like respite that you're getting? It's not really worthwhile. So given that you and Adam came from a professional sporting background, the first focus for Pure Sport CBD initially was on supporting professional athletes. How did that start?
Yeah. So I don't know if I actually said it when I was explaining, but the key point of why Pure Sport came to life was to find a CBD that was safe 100% for drug tested athletes, because that's what I was trying to solve for me, and that's what me and Adam, like, that's what we were looking for. So when that opportunity arose, our strategy was like, because then our mindset had to shift from what's good for us for what can create a business. So our perspective was, okay, if we can bring to the world the first ever fully officially batch tested and certified CBD products, because I'm sure, as you know, Colin, there's the official batch testing agencies that are recognized by World Anti-Doping and UCAD and that, and they certify all the supplements, and if they have that seal of approval. So like, if we can create that for CBD, if we can create a CBD product that attains that certification, we're going to be the first in the world. And what that's going to do is we're going to open up the doors for athletes to take CBD. They're going to talk about it, promote it, and our viewers, if people can see that athletes who are drug tested and that their whole career is dependent on making sure they're safe with their drug testing, can trust this, it's also going to help break that stigma down around cannabis-based products that some of that wider audience have. You know, the kind of viewpoint that, oh, it's like cannabis is to get high and it's for stoners and all of that. And we wanted Pure Sport to utilize that level of integrity, the transparency, being the most lab tested, batch tested, and certified, to show to people that CBD can be seen in a category of its own as a wellness product that can benefit you with pain relief, sleep quality, stress, anxiety, and it's for everybody, you know. And our view of the CBD industry was, it wasn't well regulated, so people weren't trusting it that well. A lot of the brands they had cannabis leaves, and they were kind of like appealing to that cannabisy weed type culture. And we're like, well, no, this stuff is non-addictive. It doesn't get you high. It's got amazing benefits. We want it to be seen and trusted in a kind of light, in a category of its own. So that's what we work really hard to do.
Yeah, and I think when you speak there about the branding of it in particular, Pure Sport for starters is a lot more reassuring for somebody that's maybe got athletic pursuits, rather than, like you say, maybe a brand that's got a cannabis leaf on it and people think, well, I can't possibly buy that because my employer or the amateur sports team that I play for will think, oh, this guy's just getting high
Yeah.
and in order to recover. I don't. They
Even like your mum, like at home, it's like there's a weed leaf. Like what? That's not good, you know. And it's, you know, like these compounds that are so beneficial, CBD or cannabidiol, which is what CBD stands for, is one of these compounds that's amazingly beneficial, is derived from the cannabis plant. So it's not the cannabis plant itself, it's what our world's perception of that has become. So we're wanting to kind of redefine, like, you know, yeah, there are unbelievable healing benefits from these natural, from Mother Nature, you know, that if used right, if extracted correctly, if done with trust and transparency, they should be seen as a gift, not like seen as like, oh, that's addictive or gets you high, you know?
Yeah, something that's dirty or like a secret that you shouldn't tell people that
Mm.
you're taking. Whereas once it's all out in the open and we can discuss the actual benefits of it, and people can see both anecdotal but also scientific evidence and examples, it gives a lot of reassurance to people that, oh, actually this is something that's acceptable as the fish oil that you might want to take with your glass of water when you wake up in the morning. It's about normalizing it as a supplement rather than as this kind of like dirty little thing in the background.
100%. And we see, so like when I was 17, 18, when I first started going to the gym because I wanted to become bigger, because I wanted to try and be a pro rugby player, protein, that wasn't what it is today. So I'm talking how I'm pretty old now. That's like 15 years ago when I was 18. Forget how old I am sometimes. But back then, protein powder was, you were either a pro athlete or you were a wannabe, you were trying to become a pro athlete, or you were like trying to be a bodybuilder, you know, and you'd go to the gym, you pump your guns and you do your bench press, and you go home and you drink your shake and you look in the mirror and see if your arms are growing. Now, protein is in everyone's household, you know, like the 50-year-old mum these days has got like 3 different bloody types of protein in the pantry. Um, and back 15 years ago, that was the wannabe bodybuilders and athletes. So we see CBD on that same trajectory. And what the beautiful thing about CBD is, it's creating a wave and raising awareness for what natural alternatives can do for us. So even if CBD and the hype around is something that's being introduced to someone, and then from there they find out about some of these other amazing natural supplements, and that's been something that's been a passion of mine. Like I said from the start, CBD wasn't the first natural alternative. Like having the worry about cognitive function and, you know, degenerative like brain disorders from head knocks, and learning about supplements that you can take now that will help you down the line, and having that interest, that's been a value that I've brought to Pure Sport from day one. It's like we want to utilize CBD, be seen as the most trusted, and then have products that impact people's lives, and then utilize this community to educate them on other natural alternatives. And we feel it's like a great time in life because people are starting to question the status quo. You know, it's like what you said earlier about the medical industry. It's like there's not enough proactivity of finding changes in lifestyle, to create good health. So we're not ill and then we're trying to cope with illness. Right now, the medical industry that we're in, and the paradigm we're in, is you get ill and then you cope, you know, whereas what a perspective that is growing and building, and that is challenging that status quo and that top down big pharma mentality, is what can we do now to better our lifestyle to be well in 10 years and 20 years. And that's what we're all about. That's why for us the products we're massively passionate about. We innovate, we educate, but it's a lifestyle. You know, we incorporate the run clubs, the fitness clubs, the yoga clubs to encourage and say, like, we're not a brand that sits and says, "I'll take this CBD, it's going to change your life," right, like that. It's like, this is part of a shift. So I think, yeah, it's something that people are growing and gaining awareness with.
What misconceptions do you think there still are out there? Obviously, we talked about the link to getting higher, getting stoned. What other misconceptions do you think remain for you to tackle?
One of the biggest issues is in the CBD space is there's a lot of really shit quality products out there. So up until March, and it's still in the process, but March is when it was initiated. The government created a regulation process for CBD brands that you have to be at a certain level to keep your products on the market. Now, they've not yet taken products off the market, but it's in a process of vetting and making sure that they're at that level. So one of the biggest misconceptions is that, and it's happened because naturally, like, if people are new to something, they want to try at the certain price point, and the cheaper products on the market are usually that reflect that they're not a good quality. So one of the biggest issues for the CBD industry is people trying something really poor quality and being like, "Oh, CBD doesn't work." That's a massive challenge to try and relearn and re-educate people, like, what you took doesn't work because it's shit, you know. But thankfully, with this regulations coming in, it's going to help get rid of some of those in the next sort of 12 months. And going forward, there will be a lot more transparency, and only the top quality will be able to stay trading. So that's going to be great for the consumer. One of the other ones is, CBD. One of the main impactful benefits is sleep quality. And then so people assume, oh, CBD makes you drowsy. That's a misconception. So the way that CBD impacts sleep quality is that everybody has in their body a group of receptors that is referred to as the endocannabinoid system. That's what this group of receptors is named. And the reason being is because certain cannabinoids trigger these receptors. And what this group of receptors do is they help bring about homeostasis or balance within the body. So when the body is in balance or homeostasis, that it's at its best in terms of fighting stress and the symptoms of stress. It's got its anti-inflammatory values. These receptors help bring on deeper sleep, and it has a sort of relaxation or clarity of mind. Think about when your when your body feels healthy and fit and well, your mind is more clear and focused. You sleep better. You make clearer decisions. And that's when the endocannabinoid system is triggered through these cannabinoids like CBD, it helps bring that on. So it's actually when you are sleeping there and they're triggered in that regard, it helps bring about deeper sleep, so it doesn't make you drowsy. It's another misconception.
Just on that one, Grayson, I think the sleep element is huge, because given that you and Adam are professional athletes and a lot of the ambassadors that promote Pure CBD are professional athletes, obviously sleep's important for them, but sleep's probably, like, in my opinion, like the lowest hanging piece of fruit, the most reachable, like, performance enhancer that you could get in your life if you can improve it for most people. And if correct dosage CBD of a good quality can radically change somebody's sleep quality, their quality of life will be massively different. I think everyone kind of got that red pill a few years ago when Matthew Walker was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and it was kind of, shit, man, I need to improve my sleep quality. And if CBD can play a role within improving sleep hygiene and improving quality of life, And that's how it works, rather than just making you a bit drowsy before bed, which again, a lot of people would comfortably have that as a misconception, as you say, which maybe scare them from taking it in the morning or taking it during the day, when that might still be effective for them to take their dosages across the day to help their other areas that they're looking to improve on.
100%, man. Like sleep, like if you don't sleep well, everything is on the back foot. You know, you wake up, your view of life is what's next. You take shortcuts in terms of your choices. You know, do you go for the run? Do you go to the gym to start your day? Or do you hit that snooze? You know, and then it's those snooze in the morning that actually make you feel more groggy, because that's not quality sleep. You know, it's setting you back further. Decisions in terms of diet. When you're tired, you go for the quick decision. You know, what do you do when you're tired? You drink more caffeine. And then what does that do? It makes you tired. It makes you stay awake later. Then what does that do? Another shit sleep. And the cycle goes on. Next thing you know, you're angry, frustrated, fucking making poor decisions. Your mind's not functioning well. You haven't been to the gym in a week. Then that's got a knock-on effect on your physiology and your biology. And then, you know, I'm not going to sit here and try and be a doctor. So I don't want to offend anyone, but like these are quick fire ways to slip into like issues with mental health, just life, you know, decision making. And then the cycle continues, because okay, what do? Oh, I'm going to go get a sleeping pill. I'm going to go get prescribed some sleeping pills, or maybe sometimes you don't even realize where it all began with sleep, and then the knock-on effect, and then you're like, oh, I'm depressed. I haven't felt good for months, because the cycle, you're deep in it now. And then 5 coffees a day has become normal. Not going to the gym because you're too tired to become normal. Your mind, the new norm is not having a clearly functioning mind. You feel down. Your relationships are no longer good because you don't have that clarity. So you go to a doctor. What does the doctor say? The doctor doesn't ask you about your lifestyle. He just asks you about the problem. And he says, okay, you probably need some antidepressant. The cycle goes on and on and on. And then you get into the grips of those things. You lose sight of where it was initiated. So, you know, like we are here to try to help people understand, like, wellness is a journey. It's not a destination. Our products are you're not gonna take a dose of our CBD and your life's changed. But to invest in this product is a sign that you are willing to invest in your wellness, because it matters to you. And like, man, for me, I'm so thankful to have gone through like being in those cycles of being stuck and reliant and feeling down. And even as little as like, I know I'm someone that likes to walk down the street and like feel present, you know, and greet people. And when I get my coffee in the morning, say hello and how are you going? And like, when you start to notice that that's not you anymore, and you're just walking along and you're annoyed and you're angry, you don't want to talk to people, and it's like, what's going on here? Don't get me wrong, everyone has their bad days. That's okay. But I'm saying when things start to shift and there's this snowball effect of how you're living your life, it's like, don't look at just the issue that you're facing there. Try and backtrack it and be like, what's different? Because when you get to a point where it's like you realize you're in a bloody slump, so your habits have changed, you know what I mean? So it's like, try and backtrack and create a shift in something small and achievable, and then you're going to bring that power back. And for us, championing that perspective and how our products tie into that, but the lifestyle of that is what we're all about.
Yeah, a proactive lifestyle to tackle these things in advance is absolutely a message that I can throw my full weight behind. You mentioned there around depression, and closely linked to depression is always anxiety in a lot of cases. CBD's been linked to support like relief of anxiety. Where does that come from? Obviously, you've explained how it supports sleep, but how does it support with managing anxiety?
Yeah, so it comes back around to the endocannabinoid system again. So that group of receptors is actually that that balance and homeostasis that allows to bring the body back to helps with like focus and clarity. So plenty of people take CBD throughout the day in the office. They'll take it, before meetings. We've got people who are in the corporate world that we actually had an unbelievable Trustpilot review the other day about a person who would get real anxiety before a presentation when they had to present something, and they heard about someone taking Pure Sport CBD for anxiety. So they've been taking the products. I think it was the 3,000 milligram oil CBD oil that they were taking, and they'll take it like 20 minutes before they had a presentation, and they said that the anxiety was out the window. They would just feel obviously naturally like nervous, but that taking over of anxiety was no longer a thing. So
Yeah.
it's definitely that group of receptors that triggers that allow the body to kind of function and stay in focus and clarity and relaxed, has that impact.
You mentioned there that that was like an oil. There's so many different forms and ways to take CBD. I think just looking at some of the websites over the years, rubs and drops and sprays and capsules. Why is there different ways? And I suppose maybe it's just down to preference, but equally, is there a way that's the best way to absorb it, or is it down to personal preference?
Yeah, and that's another thing that's hugely important in like natural wellness. It's like there is no one-stop shop for an individual. Um, an example is like everybody's physiologically different, and think like we all know that person that loves to have like an espresso. You go out for dinner, and the waiter comes down and goes, "Oh, you want a coffee?" And it's like 9 p.m. and someone's like, "Oh yeah, I'll have that." It's like, man, like you're not going to sleep tonight. And they're like, nah, no, never a problem. And then, like, if that was me and I take that, I'm up till 4 a.m., I can't sleep, fidgeting. And so, why do some people respond more drastically to caffeine and others it doesn't affect them? It's everyone's body and is physiologically responds differently. So, it's the same with CBD and natural products. It's finding what works best for you and trialing dosages, different ways of taking it. But you're right, but in terms of like just a simple perspective, so the most common ways of using CBD are the oil that is dropped under the tongue and is absorbed sublingually through the glands, capsules, which is obviously swallowed and broken down in the stomach, and then the topical options, which are like applied, to the body externally. So the topicals are better suited for like a specific area. So if it's like tight muscles or recovery or joint pain, and it's applied specifically to that. Skin irritation and inflammatory issues with the skin is a great one for topical application. Uh, and then the oil it's absorbed through the gland, so that's actually the quickest way to get the CBD into the system, through and you drop it under the tongue and you leave it to soak for at least 30 seconds under the tongue before you swallow. Some people like to take their CBD in their coffee or their water, and it's still like an effective way to get the CBD in, but it's not as effective because a lot of it's got to still go through and be broken down in the stomach. um, and then capsule, is you don't have that. It's a longer. It takes longer to get into the system because it's got to go broken down in the stomach. But think about it. Some people like the routine that they know. Their way of supplementing it through capsules. people are creatures of habit, so they like what they know. The dosage, it's reliable, you know exactly what you're taking. I mean, it's not that challenging in terms of the dosage with the oil, because our products come with the marked pipette, which show how much milligrams you're taking each time. But yeah, it's finding out what works well for you and finding a dose and playing. And that's one of the things we pride ourselves on as a brand, is anyone that comes to us, our job is to help you get the best out of the products. You know, it's not just sell you this and go on your way. It's like, we're there, we answer the questions. We have a full-time customer education manager that is there to educate and make sure the customer has a great experience. And that's what we pride ourselves on, because we know, you know, for example, we've had an 80-year-old grandma who gets the lower dose because that's what you think is necessary. And for 99% of grandmas, that's more than enough, who doesn't see the benefits, so she needs to up the dose. And then on the flip side, we've had 120 kg international rugby players who you'd recommend, okay, you need a bigger dose because you're a big person, your body's getting bashed and you're training hard, and they drop down to a lower dose. He's like, no, I'm getting the benefits from that, you know. So it's not one-stop shop. It's about finding what works for you, and that's something that we think people and brands that are passionate about the impact this can have on people, that's the perspective they need to have, and that's something we have.
We were saying before we hit record about I'd used it briefly, probably about 5 or 6 months for a period. I was prepping for a photo shoot, so getting as lean as I possibly could. I started to get a bit of knee pain when I was leg pressing and squatting because I didn't have as much fuel, I didn't have as much fluid pumping around my body. And I found that CBD was helpful. But the first month that I got it, I got a spray, and it was to be sprayed under my tongue. And like you say, left for, I think it was a minute before I swallowed. And I would forget to do it before going to sleep sometimes because I brushed my teeth already and I didn't want, and I don't know whether something subconsciously, like, I don't want to spray this stuff before I go to sleep. But I then moved on to the capsules, and it's just interesting that they all end up doing the same job overall. But importantly, it's about how you build that into your habits and your routines. So it's good to have the different options available to enable adherence, because it's no use if I take it 3 nights out of 7, whereas I want to be taking it 6 out of 7, 7 out of 7, if ideally, to actually reap the benefits and the reward of it. And lastly, on that, Grayson, the element of customer support is massive, because I went in completely blind in terms of what dose I might need to start on, in terms of what quality I might need to take, how often I need to take it. Obviously, there's little things in the label sometimes, but it's so generic. And like you say there, having that individuality to dosages is very, very important to give people reassurance yet again that taking something new, I'm doing it correctly.
Yeah, 100%. And this is so new to people. People are excited about what it can do for them. People are hearing, you know, a lot of the time CBD is recommended by a family member or a friend, or you hear someone talk about it. People take their time, they research, they learn, and I encourage, look around, research, learn, do your own due diligence. And you know, I know, like, when I was a customer, CBD is not cheap, you know. But for me, it's like when you're uh, investing in your health here and now and long term, like, it's a good investment, but you want to get a return on your investment. And like, we feel passionately that it's our duty to make sure that we do everything we can to show the customer, be there for the customer. Like, we have WhatsApp set up through our website, so there's actually availability and ease of chat. You know, you don't have to wait day or an hour or whatever for an email plus, like, oh, hey, this, I'm interested in this or that, what can you tell me? That's the way the world's going. You need to have that accessibility. So definitely, man. And it's a real, another misconception, and not just CBD but natural wellness products. Like, we're used to this world where you take a pill, like a painkiller, and you feel something. The most impactful benefits are when you're consistent, because these natural ingredients work in synergy with your body. They're not they're not like a painkiller that comes in and like blocks the feeling of your body. It works to help create a great operating system within your body for your body to do the unbelievable functions that it's designed to do, to recover, to overcome injuries, to rest completely with your sleep, and to not have a constantly busy or stressed out mind. That's not the natural state of being a human, but it's almost like what we've come used to. So then we do things to try and like numb that with these pills and stuff. And so a lot of people, like, naturally, that's the mindset people are in with this culture of like a quick fix mentality. So it's like, oh yeah, I'm going to take this CBD and it's going to do what a tramadol does for me because I paid this much money. It's like no, like, yeah, you can have some short-term effect, but it's when you use it consistently and it becomes part of your lifestyle, that's when you see amazing shifts. So definitely one great one that you've pointed out there.
For sure, Grayson. And I think that compounding effect is something that's really important, because sometimes when things come like too easily or too quickly, like you say, that instant hit or fix of a painkiller, that's where the addictive nature probably comes from in terms of the things it triggers within our brain with regards to dopamine or serotonin as we take it longer down the line. Whereas, of course, you're going to see hopefully some short-term improvements from using CBD, but ultimately the prize is in the longer term in adapting your lifestyle. And equally, because it's not, and you don't market yourself as like a budget cheap brand, there's a level of financial investment from people, which hopefully means that they then impact other areas of their life as well. Because if I'm paying this money for my CBD, maybe I should get off my phone a little bit earlier in the night so I can sleep better, so I can get the maximum benefits from this. Maybe I should get up a little bit earlier and go for that morning walk, that morning run, that morning gym session, which again we can get onto when it comes to the community side of things at Pure Sport. But it's like an entry point or another investment point where it should encourage other positive behaviors within your lifestyle rather than just a one-off purchase of a quick fix, which is not at all.
Absolutely, man. And yeah, that's, I feel, our society's biggest challenge right now is like things are so easily accessible at the drop of a finger. But it's like going against some, so things like, like Uber Eats and Uber and all the, like, damn, like these things are unbelievable in balance. But and online shopping things are coming in a day, and how cheap some of the like clothes and stuff, and like people not investing in quality things and taking the time to do what's right for you, because there's so many distractions in this day and age. So I feel that's a real battle for humanity at the moment, to like find our way back to that sense of like slowing down a bit as well and doing what is right. Don't get me wrong, you can still be as ambitious and driven as you please, but realizing that taking the time to do what's right for your health, physically and mentally, is a extremely important factor for living a good life.
Yeah, well said.
That's a massive challenge on our hands at the moment.
Yeah, patience and delayed gratification are like two superpowers in this day and age. And if you can employ those across different areas of your life, particularly regarding your health, then you will reap the rewards further down the line. We've talked a lot and a little bit about business, but I'd keen to dive into a little bit more of it. You started off with this focus on athletes. How did you start to evolve your target market beyond that in terms of being able to grow a business with normal people like the 80-year-old gran, the corporate worker who's a bit anxious before a presentation? How did you get out into that market, Grayson?
Yeah, so when the brand started, like, obviously, as I explained at the start, that was to create a solution for an issue that we had as athletes around painkillers. But when we went to actually go into a business, we had to take our sportsman hat off and realize, like, that's a very, very small percentage of the population who are pro athletes or aspiring pro athletes. And actually, you know, from my journey in pro sport and understanding the mentality of pro athletes is like things like supplementation and stuff, you don't really look to buy it. That's something that's maybe like an endorsement or your agent sorts or your club organizes for you. So it's not a good business plan to be aimed just at athletes. But when we looked at the benefits of CBD, the main benefits are sleep quality, pain relief, anti-inflammatory, sleep quality, and stress and anxiety. And we're like, these are things that are massively important for anyone from any walk of life. So when we first came to market, like we were a very small brand. It was started out of our own savings. There was no investment, no loans, nothing. What allowed us to grow was that we solved that issue for athletes. And then what guys were just buying our products, like pro athletes were just buying the products because it was not available elsewhere. So they couldn't get a big endorsement or whatever. And then they just started sharing it on Instagram, talking about it. So organically, our business grew through that. And then what would happen is like, Jeff from down the road who follows Danny Cipriani would see Danny talking about how his sleep quality improved or his pain in his knee was better. And Jeff from down the road who loves rugby, who follows Danny, like, and I'm interested in that, And then someone who loves their training, who follows Ollie Marchon, they'll invest in it because they want to recover better. So for those who don't know, Ollie Marchman's, one of a big name in the UK fitness scene, and he's a guy that's used and endorsed our products for a long time. And so they would see him. But then what would happen is this person that loved their training, that was influenced by Ollie Marchman, would see benefits. And he would tell his mum, who had been on Voltaren for a year because she's got arthritis, and he'd be like, Mum, you should try CBD. So then the mum tries it. And then the mum tells the grandma, and then the grandma tells her friends. And next thing we got bloody Gladys from Glasgow who loves gardening, who's saying, my arthritis in my hands is so much better. And I've taken this CBD. So it was like a knock on. And then what we saw, my heart would be filled so much when I'd see like this grandma saying, this has helped me, or like a 70-year-old saying, I love golf, but I haven't been able to play more than once a week because I've got arthritis in my hands. Now I'm out playing 4 times a week. And then we're like, man, we became driven by how the products were. Our vision of how we can spread the brand was motivated by real life people benefiting. So we're like, how do we reach more people here? How do we hear? And it's one of our constant ongoing challenges, is because the way we made a name for ourselves was to be the first fully batch test and certified CBD for athletes. And as a brand with a small budget, no marketing budget, fully, we invested fully in the products and the batch testing. It was like, okay, how do we utilize the strength that we've got, which was to be seen as the brand for trusted for athletes, to show that the wider world that's good for you. And that's been an ongoing evolution for us, because it was never ever the plan to just be seen as just for athletes. So what our it was never the plan, but it was like what was a necessity as a brand with a small budget, because we needed to make an impact where we could in order to even progress at all, and then from then it's like, okay, how can we show the world that, and create this understanding that if you're a human, you are an athlete in the arena of life. Like, that's how we see it. So if you're a mum and you're running around after the kids, you're picking up the toddler, and you're unloading the dishwasher, and you're hanging out the washing, and you're up and you need to sleep well because you got to go again, and you're feeling stressed, and the back's aching because you're picking up the kids 100 times a day. Like, you need to recover. You need to optimize your well-being. So for us, it's like utilizing that viewpoint of someone who's a pro athlete and showing someone who doesn't see themselves as a pro athlete, like, no, you are the same. Your job is to optimize yourself to get the best out of you and feel good about life. It's the same mentality, and Pure Sport is here for you. You know what I mean? That's our vision.
Yeah, I love that passion. It really comes through from you about what your mission is and how you've accomplished it as well. Is really interesting as well. You mentioned there that it was business was very much started through you and Adam saving. You had to convince your partners that this is the right route to go down. Hopefully, they're all on board now. But recently, you've had more external investment. I think Finn Russell from the rugby world, John Hart from the rugby world, but even kind of more business-minded people like Alex Stewart, who was a director at Clyde Blowers. So anyone in Scotland will know Clyde Blowers is a massive business. So this guy is obviously the real deal. You guys are pro athletes. You do speak really well about business, Grayson, but who do you go to for like business advice as you guys are scaling? Do you use Alex a lot, or do you have other sources to bounce things off?
Yeah, I think like one of our biggest strengths, because we don't claim to be unreal businessmen. We say we're beginners, we're learning. Like, we're so excited of the momentum and progress that Pure Sport has made, but all along we said we're learning. Um, and that's actually been, I feel, a strength, is to know that, like, knowing that we weren't experts, and that allowed us to reach out to the people that knew so much more than we did. Um, and I've never been someone that was a great learner in like the kind of standard format of education. I but I was fascinated and would really immerse myself in things that I was interested in. Like, like I say, when I just became really interested in natural wellness products that could help with like long-term cognitive function, I just took a deep dive, podcast, books, YouTube, and just really learned and learned. And so in terms of business, with that willingness to say, I don't know, but I really want to learn. What we've found is that there are some amazing people out there that have accomplished unbelievable things that you would think wouldn't really have that much time for you. But if you go to them with the genuine perspective, like, I would love to learn from you, there's some amazing people out there that are really willing to help for no other reason than because they're just good people and they want to help people. And Alex Stewart is a great example of that. Clyde Blowers is, like, as you referred to, known as one of Scotland's most successful companies. Like, these guys are massive, and Alec was a like founding partner in Clyde Blowers and one of the most integral parts of it. And it shows like connecting with people with no like sort of motive that's kind of trying to get something, but just being interested in them and vice versa can lead to the best opportunities. So when I was at Glasgow Warriors, Adam and I actually did a podcast, and it was around we had a real interest in like mental health, understanding well-being in regards to like how mental performance as athletes and how it transferred into life. And what we actually did was, because we weren't the experts, we were fascinated by it, and we had benefited a lot from immersing ourselves in learning. Our podcast was about interviewing experts, and Alex Stewart actually listened to our podcast. He was a supporter of the Glasgow Warriors. He was part of the business club. Listened to our podcast, reached out to us, and was like, and him and his founding member of Clyde Blowers, Jim McCall, they had founded a school called Newlands Junior College in Glasgow, and the school was for disadvantaged youth, and it was founded complete from their money. There was a curriculum that was created to help kids that had been expelled and that to learn and feel empowered. And Alec invited Adam and I along to meet the kids and talk to them, and we were blown away by how unbelievable the school was. And I was someone that grew up in quite challenging circumstances, and so when I got the opportunity to go into the school, I was like, man, this place is unbelievable. It's providing kids who have been ruled out, seen as failures and kicked out of school and looked at as criminals and all that, an opportunity. learn and actually enjoy learning in a different way. And Alec actually said, "Would love for you guys to do some mentoring, you and Adam." And I was like, "Yeah, sweet, would love that." That's how we met Alec. And then along the way, as Pure Sport started, because we had built a like friendship with him, we would go and say, "Oh, Alec, like we're really interested to understand more about forecasts or how to build a business plan," and he would help us. Um, and then yeah, that was how our connection with Alec came about. But without a doubt, my biggest, I mean, I don't feel like I'm someone that's like, it's my job to go around and give people advice, because I'm still learning. But I think if I was to pass on a nugget that I feel is really impactful, connect with people and be interested in what they're doing. And through that network that you build, even if it's like a year or two down the line, that person you connect with, you may realize there's something that is of real interest to you. And to go back to them and from that first genuine connection and be like, "Hey, I'd love to talk to you about this that you know about. I would love to know about that." You'd be amazed. Like, people are willing to help you, you know?
Yeah, that's incredible. And I think it links on to a lot of what you've said about delayed gratification and like steps in advance of being proactive rather than just tackling things when they come up. Because if you'd cold approached Alex Stewart when you'd started Pure Sport CBD, you'd been like, okay, I know you played for the Warriors, but I don't know anything else about you. Whereas because you guys were developed a relationship, you'd shown what a good person you and Adam are in terms of supporting his initiative. Of course, he was more likely to return the favor, and the principle of reciprocity is a powerful one. Last few questions for you, Grayson. Community is such a buzzword when it comes to business, and it's probably up there with like authenticity on Instagram. It's a bit overused, but you guys have as a core value of your business. And I'd love for you to share with the listeners how you actually bring that to life in real terms, and it not just being something that sits on like a marketing document or a perspective to investors to say, we've got community here at Pure Sport CBD. How do you actually bring it to life?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and community started to be something that people spoke to us about, like, "Oh, Pure Sport, like you guys are building," and like you say, it is a buzzword. And when I reflect on how we've built momentum, like we had savings that went, everything went into developing these products that were a world's first. We had no option but to create the highest quality that was going to impact people, because we didn't have a marketing budget. So our thing was, it's got to work. Uh, Otherwise, people ain't coming back, you know. And having being so small and having no marketing budget, all we had was our passion and our belief in what we were building. And like that passion and belief in what we had, it brought others on board with us. And you know, when we went out and showed how much Pure Sport meant to us, and people were willing to get on board with that. And I remember, you know, like in the early days, I knew nothing about like influencer marketing. I knew nothing about marketing at all. I kind of still don't know that much. You know, we're doing the things that make sense to us as a brand, that's true to us. But the biggest thing that has been an impact for Pure Sport is getting people on board that share the value and the belief in what you're doing, and not getting people on board because they may be an expert or they may have a huge following on social media. Like, the biggest flops we've had is when we have got to a point where you could get someone with 1 million followers and they don't truly care, you know, and then that's like the biggest waste,
Yeah,
and it's
that's
not good
that's
for the
that's mad.
brand.
That's mad, isn't it? Because you spoke there about Ollie Marchand, like really credible guy with a big following, but importantly, his following might be smaller than the guy with 1 million, but he'll go on there and talk about your product because he's using it and he cares about it, and he won't be sending you an invoice every time he does a story to say, "Oh yeah, I did a story last week, it got X number of thousand views, that'll be X number of £100, please, please, Grayson. He's passionate to talk about it, or like you said, Danny Cipriani probably put it on his story because he was enjoying using it and he was seeing the benefits. Whereas if you then seek out somebody because they've got a big following and they're in your target market, they feel like you're a client for them. They're able to charge you for promotion.
Yeah. In this day and age, you know, influencer marketing was something that was really impactful, probably, a few years ago. And for specific audiences and types of products, it's still very impactful. But, for a product and brand like ours, where it's about education, it's about perspective, and it's about lifestyle, an influencer who's on Love Island with 1 million followers going like that is not going to work. It's about the people that utilize these products for their wellness, that are just happy to share and talk about their own routine and their lifestyle in a way that is factual. That's like when people start to notice that, they're like, oh shit, I'm interested in that. I want to try that. So yeah, it's for us, it's the biggest thing is just doing what is true to us and getting people on board that share that passion, and being willing to try things and learn, and when it works, keep going. If it doesn't, you learn quick and you change. And I think that's another one of the, I guess, blessings of not having a background in business, or like being highly regimented in terms of like a corporate background, or is we're quite fluid, where we do things in the moment. We're quite creative. So building a core group of people that this is not a job, this is like what we truly believe in. There's a knock-on effect in that. Like I often say to our group, like, we're building something special here. You can't fake it. You either truly have that passion as the team that then people buy into, or you don't, and you can't fake it. That's why, we've built a run club we got over 300 people that are in the run club within 3 months. We've built a fitness club that has hundreds of people. We're building a yoga club, and people are like, you guys are like, what you're doing is insane. Like, what's your marketing strategy? And it's like, we just do what we do. Like, we go and do the run club, we go do the fitness club, we go do the yoga club, and we share it, and we invite people, and they invite people, and we connect, and we live the values, and it snowballs. And you can't fake that if it's not true, and that, then I see brands want to collaborate with us, big, like massive brands that have, I know for a fact, like budgets that are like in the millions of pounds a month.
Yeah, I saw your collab with Gymshark. That was absolutely amazing. And interestingly, I think they were the first example of influencer marketing working really, really well. I don't know if you were like a fan of theirs back in the day, but I remember seeing their like first ever tracksuit. It was called the Lux tracksuit on YouTube. It was like Jeff Side, Alan Gabby, these like bodybuilders from the States came over for Body Power, which is the big fitness expo in Birmingham. And everyone was like, where are these tracksuits from? And it literally was Lewis and Ben Francis had like made these tracksuits and sent them out to YouTubers that they liked, and they promoted them and wore them. And that was like how Gymshark just went from like a bedroom operation to like, obviously there was some steps in the way, but to where it is now. But also amazing to see them collab with you guys and recognize like how real you guys are.
Yeah, man. And like they're a brand that I just think like that brand is massive. Like, if you broke down in your mind in what the revenue was like into sales in a day, it's like unbelievable. How many people are buying their products, and it's because they've created a brand that people are a part of. But you can't fake it. Like, they have built that because they like they had a vision, and they built a team that believed in that vision and grew it. So many people come into business with the money being the end goal, or like the goal, you know. And I think they're the ones that try to emulate these things, but people see through it, because if it's the money driving you, you're not living the values. You know, you're paying someone else to show that they're living the values, and if that person doesn't feed off of that energy from you at the top, it's never going to be truly authentic, and the people feel that. That's why it's unique to have a brand that's building around a group that is like so passionate about the vision. So I see people doing things really similar, like almost to the point like copying a lot of stuff, some of the stuff, and it's flattering now. But like, we're not worried, because it's like, if you're not true and authentic and like actually that's you living your values, it's not going to last, and people are going to see through it. So I say to my team, like, just keep being us, keep bringing the energy, and that's what we do. And the snowball goes, because 20 people came to the first run club, you know, within 10 weeks we were at 130 people, you know, because people came, they felt the energy, they felt included, they belong, they tell their friends, they come, their energy. And then these people become an extension of us, because they're feeding off our energy. And you don't get that when it's and no, I'm not trying to like offend anyone, but you don't get that when someone who has a big chunk of money or a big chunk of investment, sees an opportunity in the market, comes in, here's this money, hire the CEO, hire this marketing person, hire this salesperson, hire this events person. They may be unreal at their job, and they actually may build a great brand and build a lot of revenue, but it's not got the impact of a brand that's like. That's why Gymshark is like, some of the guys I admire, I see like on Instagram, they got 3,000 followers, and their things are private, and it's like this. It's like someone who I know was there at the start of Gymshark, and they pioneered something, and they were part of it, you know. And I'm like, fair play to you, and fair play to Ben for getting you to be part of that vision. And without like Ben Francis having that vision, he wouldn't have been able to get those people on board, because like you said, I've got to know and chat to some of these guys at Gymshark, and like, they're so down to earth, man, with what they're got going on. They're like, they weren't the experts either. Some of these guys who are chief brand officers, chief financial officers of Gymshark, they were just dudes that started out like with some knowledge in that area, with really little experience, and built it. But without that passion and buy-in and vision, I don't think you can truly build a community. Money can't buy it. So Gymshark is a perfect example of like an inspiring and true vision and passion that's built out. And then we've had brands that have come to us and be like, oh, we want to be part of the run club. We want to put our brand name to Pure Sport Run Club. And we're like, okay, cool. Like, what does a collaboration look like? And I'm talking like, I won't say their names, but I'm talking like big brands, and, you know, up there globally, you know, in sport and stuff. And we're like, okay, cool. Like, how's it going to be? Like, so excited this brand's come to us. And they're like, oh, well, no, we don't do anything other than like, we put our name and the thing, and everything Tiny talk about, it's like our brand name, Pure Sport Run Club. We'll put people in kit and stuff like that. And we're like, well, that ain't a collaboration, because like, it's got to be value for both sides. And in my mind, I'm sitting there like, you guys are worth like billions. I'm talking some of these brands, like, your marketing budget is hundreds of millions. Go out and build your own fucking run club. And then I'm like, oh wait, they're not doing it because they don't have the true passion to bring the people to it. They may do one for a few weeks and it fizzles out. So I'm starting to clue on. It's like, it ain't about, like, of course, money, resource, scaling up. Yep. But like, in terms of doing something that's truly,
There's a little bit of that 1,000 true fans piece there, Grayson, because if you've got 1,000 true fans that will turn up to run clubs, tell their friends about it, it doesn't stay as 1,000 for very long. And because that core is so tight and so strong, as it grows, the kind of branches that are shooting off from this tree are also equally strong and robust. Whereas these other businesses, like you're saying, they don't really have that network on the ground, those kind of profiles and personalities that people would want to go and network with and catch up with. They wouldn't have you running a 5K with them around Wandsworth Park or wherever you were doing it. It's mad.
No, I mean, it's one of my biggest things as we grow is like, you know, I say to like Will Good, who heads the run club and works with a lot of our ambassadors, and James Dollar, who heads up the fitness club and works with a lot of the functional fitness ambassadors. It's like, guys, you are Pure Sport, you know. And then what's going to happen is we go to these clubs, we create these clubs, these people connect with you, and they appreciate that you are part of Pure Sport. Then you make them feel belonging, and then they're part of it. So it's like, how do we keep building out that? And it's like, you empower people to know that they are. It's not like, I remember in my rugby career, some coaches would try to undervalue you, you know, so you wouldn't get paid your proper value, or, you know, it'd be like that treat 'em mean, keep 'em keen type mentality that, you know, kids get told about boys get told about to do girls, and it never really works, you know. Like, if you undervalue someone and you don't show the level of impact that they're truly having and show appreciation for it, they're subconsciously or consciously, they're gonna know. So stop trying to take the piss out of people, show the love, and you'll get back tenfold, you know. And that's how we try to do everything, that we try to live that with Pure Sport.
Amazing. What a note for us to wrap up on, Grayson. Where is the best place for people to head towards if they want to learn more about the brand and also want to connect with you?
Yeah, so Instagram's a big go-to these days. So it's at Pure Sport CBD. Website is puresportcbd.com. And me personally is at Grayson John Hart. John without an H, because my mum was trying to be different. But yeah, and as well, like, anyone has any questions to do with any of the run clubs, fitness clubs, yoga clubs, they're all open invite. You know, you don't have to be a customer, you don't have to pay to come there. We do it to build community, encourage that lifestyle. And if anyone's got questions about the products, you can reach out to me directly. I'm always happy to chat to people, but you can go through the website. We got the WhatsApp set up. You'll always find someone in the team that is passionate about it to talk to you. So yeah, hopefully that helps.
Yeah, superb. What a conversation that has been, guys. And I'm sure you've all learned a lot about CBD. If you have enjoyed this one, please take a screenshot, pop on your Instagram story, tag me at call.cambro, and let's get the word out about how CBD really works and the benefits that are there for everyone. And I'll be back to speak to you all again very, very soon.